Hello, this is Jack Vanderpaul, Team Lead for the SCAP Compliance Checker, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate XCCF tailoring in SCC on Windows 10. Same functionality exists for Linux and Mac OS X in the builds of SCC for those platforms. This feature is only needed if you are unable to fully comply with the requirements in the SCAP content and you're wanting to modify the content without really manually editing the complex XML files. If you have to comply 100% with what's in the content, or if you have other means of documenting exceptions, tailoring may not be needed for you. So we'll dig in a little bit of what is XCCF tailoring, and then we'll demonstrate how to use it in SCC, and then we'll see some reports that have been created after we tailor to content. So what is XCCF tailoring? It is an SCAP 1.2 and 1.3 standardized method for creating a custom profile and potentially modifying values that are passed in from XCCF into Oval. Now, that's a lot of technical jargon there, so we'll dive in a little bit further. XCCF being the policy and prose component of SCAP, it has things like the titles and the descriptions, fixed text. It also contains profiles. Oval is the automation checking language component of SCAP, where tools like SCC actually query the system. So what is a profile? A profile is a list of groups or rules in XCCF that have basically been enabled or disabled. And values exist in XCCF, and they are simple data elements like numeric or Boolean or string that can be passed from a relatively simple XCCF document into a complex Oval in order to change the test that is performed without having to manually edit Oval. There's a limitation on which types of Oval tests can be modified with XCCF values. Anything that has a simple string or number can be. Things that have like sets, like a Windows file permission check, for example, wouldn't be one that you could tailor with values. So XCCF values are completely optional SCAP content, so you may not see them at all. If the content author has created values in XCCF, then you will see them in SCC if you look at tailoring. If you don't see any values, then they're probably not in the content. Before you edit values, you'd really want to know a lot more about how that check is exactly performed and what the valid values do. So this is really not for the faint of heart. You're going to be changing how the check is performed, so you really need to know what that means from a technical perspective. Sometimes in the content, there are refined values where the content author might give you like a description saying disabled equals 0 and enabled equals 1. So those are things that can be, and we'll demonstrate that in SCC in a few minutes. But there's also the ability to manually just type in whatever value you want, which could change the content. So you need to make sure you are knowledgeable in what the check does before modifying those. Okay, so how to use an SCC? So that's a very high level. That's the SCAP specification for it. So the same functionality will exist in any SCAP 1.2 or 1.3 validated tool. SCC happens to be one of those things. And I'm going to choose a content stream in SCC that I know has some values, and then it's relatively small, so it'll be simple enough to view. So here's the Internet Explorer 11 STIG, and I'll click on tailoring. Actually, first off, we'll look at the profile, because the tailoring is going to be of a specific profile. So we could also do a node profile and just take all the rules. But for the most part, you tailor a specific profile. So like this Mac 1 classified, or I could choose Mac 3 public. Sure. And I'll click tailoring, and it'll take that profile, and it's going to load it up inside SCC so we can see all of the rules and values and groups that are associated to that. And here's the tailoring window in SCC. At the top, we see the stream name, and we have a profile, and we can see that 134 of 134 groups are enabled, 134 rules are enabled, and groups and rules generally in SCAP, it is assumed that there will be fewer groups than rules, but in the DISA STIG SCAP content, rules and groups are kind of in a one-to-one relationship. So, and the values here, you can see we've modified, there are 73 values that could be changed. So far, we've changed none of them. And I could just as simple, if I knew exactly what I was looking for, I could click on one of these and just turn it off. And now I can see that the number of rules has gone from 134 to 133. Simple as that. If I wanted to search for something, I could just do that. You know what, we'll do this, we'll save this. We'll say save and close, and I will say my agency is NIWIC. Check. And disabling one rule, version 0.1. And I'll click save. Now this data actually that's popping up right now, this is not mandated by SCAP, but it is allowable as metadata. And we thought that having some kind of tracking capability for why tailoring was happening would be useful. So this is a mandatory thing in SCC, allowable in SCAP, not mandated by SCAP. So I'll click save. So now if I were to perform that, I would get 134. I'm going to demonstrate it later, but I just wanted to show that. So that's a tailored profile. I can go back into that one again. And then I will demonstrate some of the search capabilities of SCC's tailoring. Because a lot of times you don't know exactly what the rules are. So let's say I wanted to find all of the things that are related to Java. And actually, let me back a second. I want to only perform the ones that are Java. So I'm going to do a right click. This will demonstrate this as well. So I can do a clear all. And then I'm going to say Java. So there are a collection of rules here. I can say select all. And now I have 11 rules that are enabled that have Java in them. I mean, this is going to be very much dependent on what you want to do. This is all just demonstrative. And I can also look at the values that might be related to Java. We'll do both of these at once. So I can click one of these values. This one happens to be the lockdown intranet zone local computer variable. And this is one of these things where the original value is 0. What does that even mean, right? Luckily, they did provide some refined values. So 0, I can find out from here, means disable Java, which is what they're setting. If for some reason I needed to modify this to say, well, we need to allow Java, but only with the high safety mode, then I can refine that value to be the 65536 setting. And then I can go and we can say save and close. And I'll bump this up to revision 2. So now we have 11 rules enabled with one of them with a refined value. And then I can run a scan. It'll take just a brief second here to get everything up and loading and running. And since I only have 11 rules enabled, it shouldn't take very long to be performed. There we go. Creating reports, done. And we'll go view those results. So now here's the Internet Explorer 11 STIG. And as we can tell, I had 9 passes and 2 fails, so there was 11 checks that were performed. 123 were not selected. So if you do tailoring, obviously people need to be aware that you've tailored something, or it could confuse like upstream users if they're not looking at what profile is selected. So we'll scroll down and look at the profile. So right now the profile, since it is not one of the default profiles from the DISA-STIG content, it had, and this is a SCAP 1.2, 1.3 mandated thing, the word tailored is in there. So this is a derived from a Mac 3 public, but it's been tailored. And we put the organization and the name and the description and the status. So those are things there to help people realize that not everything was performed. And if we scroll down through these, and this system that I'm running on is fairly compliant, but the one system, the check that we modified, it said the value must be that enabled but restricted, the 65536 setting. My system was set to 0. So it failed because that requirement did not equal what we chose for it to be. So there's a demonstration of XCCF tailoring and editing of values and a little brief description of how to use it in SCC and brief background of what it even means. And just as a passing note, SCC also has some proprietary legacy methods we refer to as deviations, and there's an SCC unlocker application. These were created way back when SCC was developed at the beginning, and SCAP 1.0 and 1.1 didn't have tailoring. So we've maintained that functionality, and we still have it. And SCC 5.4 is going to be the last version to have that feature. So we're not going to demonstrate it because all of the content now created by DISA is 1.2 or later, so tailoring is the way to go. So you can use, if you know how to use deviations and you want to use deviations, feel free, but I would highly suggest testing out tailoring going forward, because starting with SCC 5.5, deviations is going to be retired. Hope you found this useful. Look forward for other videos from our team. Thank you very much.